Welcome to another episode of Talking Nerdy in the Bedroom with
Corey,
KJ,
and Mike.
Today we are joined with a special guest, which is...
And Casey.
Be my geese.
Close enough.
He is currently on our casting couch, but that's neither here nor there. Today we are going to be talking all about anime, and we're going to be talking about some different shows. The first one that I want to talk about is one that I dove into the first season, which was One Punch Man. And I know you both like it, and I have questions about you guys liking it. So in this show,
you dropped as a child.
In this show,
yes. So much. Explain. No.
I have 3 eyebrows.
In this show, the main character is One Punch Man, but his real name is
Saitama.
He is so bored in the first episode because he's so powerful and because of everything else. Why do you find that enjoyable? I had that thought the entire time I watched the first season and part of season 2, where I'm like, if he's bored, the main character is bored with everything going on because he can just one punch everybody and he's basically invulnerable. What's the point of watching? For me, it was more interesting watching the sidekick guy that he ends up training.
Genos?
Genos,
Yeah. That was more interesting for me because he could actually get hurt. He had some character development. The only thing that the main character had was at one point he was just wanting to be a superhero. He then got bored with it, and then he wanted to rise up the rankings. So what made that show appealing for you two? We'll start with Mike.
So he is bored because he is so powerful, but that kind of gives you like that, I don't want to say comic relief, but when he applies for the superhero academy, they only give him a class C, which is like the lowest level, and he's the most powerful being in the universe that we can see because he can just literally one punch any monster that he fights. And it's just kind of like funny that they don't really take him seriously. The only one that takes him seriously is Genos, who immediately starts out as a class S superhero.
But isn't that because of the written test? Like, he got the highest score you can get on the physical, but the written test, I guess he bombed.
Right, because he just, like, didn't care. Like, it's funny that he's just so carefree, which I feel like I like about the show, is because he just doesn't take anything seriously, but he's, like, the most powerful superhero ever. It'd be like if Superman was just like, I guess I'll fight this alien today. But my groceries! Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just so relaxed and carefree. It's just funny.
Okay, and for you, Casey, is it about the same or is it something different?
It's sort of. I kind of like the idea of him being like ridiculously powerful and not having much in the way of resistance, because it's very different from the norm, which is like, you have protagonist and then you have antagonist, and they fight a lot and they go back and forth, and sometimes the antagonist gets the upper hand and sometimes they don't. And this show just completely shuts that down.
Doesn't that take away from the appeal, though, in the sense of... So in most TV shows, the protagonist is never going to die because they're the protagonist. Right. But you have a show like Game of Thrones where they introduce these characters that are super popular. Exactly, they just axe them. This is a case where literally there's no stakes because he's just going to one-punch everybody. He's never in jeopardy.
So I can definitely understand why a lot of people would look at that and think that it's boring because it differs so much from the norm. Mm-hmm. And again, it doesn't give you a lot to cling to or hold on to. I just think it's funny. I love his blasé attitude. I love the fact that he is just like, oh, you guys have a superhero academy? That's cool. I'm going to go beat the crap out of this like fish monster that nobody else can beat, where nobody sees it and no one knows who it was. And I think another thing that I'm waiting for as well as the seasons progress is they mentioned in, I think it was either the first or second episode, where there was a superhero who was supposed to be like the most powerful ever, and he kind of just disappeared, and everybody is sort of like doesn't know what happened.
And like they make a notion like specifically that he has hair.
Yeah.
And like you see this guy come out of nowhere and he's just straight bald for no reason.
Yeah, with no hair at all. So there's a weird potential underlying mystery. Granted, I don't think that's the case. I think it's just completely circumstantial. But I think it's funny that they kind of put that there in the beginning.
And
to make you
never
think,
talked
like-
about it again.
Yeah, never talked
I was
about
gonna
it again.
say I
ever.
don't even remember that scene.
It has like a
it's
lot
so
of hidden
brief.
backstory.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not even in the shot when they're talking about it. I'm pretty sure it's the first episode shortly after you see his, like, what he was, fights the crab monster, and then is now One Punch Man, quote. I'm pretty sure it's in that transition somewhere where they bring it up. It's super brief. And
But that's not even
way
the
you see it-
superhero council or whatever they're called. That's the other place, right? The
Correct,
original
yep.
place?
Yep.
Okay. So with the show, and do you guys only like him, One Punch Man, or are you
Genos
liking
is
all
the
the
man.
other?
Yeah,
Okay.
Genos is pretty great. What I like the most is how every single person... What?
Bicycle Man.
Oh, Moomin Rider?
Moon
Moomin Rider's
Rider.
the best. Moomin Rider is flat out the most realistic character in that show. Bar none.
Well, that and the guys that are in the truck when the moon rider is going by and he's like, nah, guys, this is too much. You shouldn't go that way. And then he keeps going.
Right.
I'd be the guy in the truck, be like, no, this isn't for
we
us.
can't deal with that. And he always pulls through, which is great. He's got a
higher class than
does.
Satama
Yeah,
too, which is just hilarious because his superpower is just him on a bicycle.
Well,
Yeah.
not anymore. Satama goes to B in season 2.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah, I
still
mean, he just
class
is-
C.
It's funny to think that he was towards the top of Class C.
Yes.
And then Saitama gets Class C as well. But I love how everybody else interacts with him. They don't know who he is. They don't care about him. And then they see him in action and they're like, what in the world just happened? I love that. I think it's hilarious because he's just so disconcerting. You just have no idea by looking at him that he's so powerful.
So I will say, too, this is one of those shows that came out of nowhere, too. I think it was 2015, 2016, something like that, that did take Japan and then also the US kind of by storm. And I think it's, as you said, as different as it was. It's definitely not something that I think I get into. I like having the conflict where there's an actual chance of something happening, and this feels like it took that away. And I guess for my own mind, I'm not ready for that, or it doesn't show a good story in my mind. Like if you're doing that, it doesn't look like I don't want to say the normal, because I like things that aren't normal. It's one of the reasons I like Game of Thrones, because anything could happen. But for this, it just... Every episode, I know how it's gonna end. Like, he's gonna one punch them, or in the season finale, he's gonna 3-punch them, and that's gonna end the episode. And it's kind of like, okay, I know where this is going. It did have moments that I did laugh. I don't think I liked as much as you did, Mike. You just talking about it now, very full of laughter, very full of life.
It's so different. I mean, that's the best part of it. And because the Hero Academy doesn't take him so seriously, he's never brought to these like major battles. So like there's battles where some of these characters die or are like seriously injured, and they could have easily been prevented by the Hero Academy taking the most powerful being seriously, and they just don't. Like, he doesn't get one of the little...
not knowing that he's that powerful. So he beat their tests, and then everybody thought there was talk about him being a fraud. There was talk about, do we want to include him because we can really see how strong he is? I remember the council
so they don't take
talking
him
about
seriously.
That. It's because they don't know. Would you take him seriously out of nowhere? This random guy?
No, I mean, if you destroyed the test, you'd retest. Like, if you've blown the doors off this test, we should retry this, because if this is a serious thing, we may have found someone. But they're just like, nah, it can't be real.
So you guys have to explain to me how they got away with it. Granted, I know it's Japan, but a superhero with a class, I think he's class S rank, maybe it was A, who rapes other dudes he finds attractive?
Oh, Putty Puzna?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
explain that one to me, because I was like, did he just say that?
I feel
He's
like
in
the
jail?
Japanese prison system is a little different than ours.
That's, to be fair, based on the anime that I've seen, that's exceptionally tame.
Yeah.
That's
That's very tame. For them, it's very, very tame.
It was so random
It's
and out
off-putting
of
when you
left
first hear
place.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it absolutely is. And then you're supposed to, I guess, a little bit be rooting for him.
Yep.
At the
'Cause he's
end
a
of season
superhero.
1, because he's helping fight
Yeah.
the main bad people, and then it's super weird. It's
Yeah.
completely off-putting. It didn't take me out of the story. I was just like, what the hell is going
Yes.
on?
I think he has such a little impact story-wise that he doesn't really do much to deter you, but it's very much a what did I just witness moment.
Yeah, a little
What
bit.
just happened?
And as far as anime goes, I mean, you have Bizarre Adventure.
Oh, JoJo's Bizarre
JoJo's
Adventure.
Bizarre
Oh, God,
Adventure.
yeah.
I mean, that is just
That's off the walls.
through the roof.
If you've never seen that, it's a very
I have not.
it's a very interesting show.
Slowly dipping my toes in, realizing, okay, there's this other media out there. Maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't. Because anime, to me, what I grew up with, was like a Pokemon,
Yeah.
was a Yu-Gi-Oh, was a Digimon. Like, those are the things when I was in middle
as
school
well.
that were really blowing up, and almost everybody in my school watched and played Pokemon.
Oh God, yeah.
There were people that were doing even more deeper than that, but like that was the big one, Pokemon, to the point where Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. everybody was in front of their TV.
Yeah, ready to watch the next
I feel
episode.
like that's Americanized, kind of tamed down anime, and
Of
then the
course it is.
stuff that we just watched for this podcast was like probably not even as far as it goes, but
No.
but it was more traditional, I guess, anime.
It's closer, yeah, way closer. So I did some notes because I didn't know how many there were.
Okay.
So that is classified as I'm gonna butcher this, so anybody that hears this, please go easy on me. Kodomuke. Kodomomuke. Kodomomuke. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
somewhat literal translation to like kids anime or child anime. It's like Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, Pokemon. Then there's another one that I'd never heard of.
Well, I
is
know
extremely big over there.
Yu-Gi-Oh was originally released in Japan,
Yep.
and I think the first 4 or 5 episodes, which never came to America, it's way different. Like there's certain stuff in the dubbed version that you can watch that is more adult feeling than
like
what you eventually get for the actual seasons that we have.
Yeah, the biggest thing is the 2 scenes where there are guns that they cut out.
Yep.
So when when the goons just bust through, try to arrest Kaiba, they're just finger gunning him
Yes.
instead. Oh no, what am I gonna do?
And just some of the language too. It just
Yeah.
felt more adult
Tame.
than what we had, which
part,
obviously makes sense because it was literally geared for kids in America once it came
on
over
like
here.
Fox Kids
Yep.
Yeah, Fox for
23
Kids.
or something like that.
WB Kids at one
Yeah.
point too, I think.
So, would you consider, like, I watch Young Justice? It's like DC cartoon, I guess. Is that anime?
It's
Or not
animated.
really. It's
Yeah.
animated, but it's not anime.
Anime specifically is like of Japanese.
Oh, okay.
Kind of. I think it's also based around, and again, I might be wrong. Please don't roast me over this. I think it's based around art styles to a degree as well.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, you can definitely tell the art style. So some of this that I was watching for One Punch Man, I was like, oh god, that looks like the exact character that's in this, and that looks like the exact character that's in this, where it's all that type of art style. So
Yeah,
I
you can
agree,
hone
it's
it up very
definitely
well.
somewhat art style related compared to just animated, because I'm not going to consider The Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park to be anime.
yeah,
I feel like
those
it's
are more
hair.
colloquially referenced as cartoon. What?
The long spiked
This
hair.
long, spiky hair.
They-
is
they
like,
love long,
it's
spiky
anime,
hair.
then. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a telltale
Huge
sign.
tracts of land.
Yes.
Naruto.
Mike, obviously, you love Star Wars. I feel like everybody here likes Star Wars, but I know you love it. Did you watch the? I'm blanking on what it's called, but it was on Disney and
Plus,
Disney Plus.
there's
but-
a Japanese one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and it's different art styles
Oh,
for
I
each.
love all
that
of those
that was
ones.
good. I
Yeah.
like
Again?
that. There's a Star Wars. I think it's like 8 episodes or 9.
Yeah.
and it's each one is a different art style, and a different director, producer, whatever.
Yeah,
but they're
it's like
just
a short.
animes.
It's like a short of like different parts of the galaxy, and they're done in different art styles. And one of them is like kabuki Japanese art.
There's a really cool
That sounds
samurai
really good.
one too.
Yeah, right. That's the one.
Oh, that's the one you're
yeah,
talking
when
about,
they have
yeah.
like actual like samurai lightsabers, which
Yeah.
is really cool.
It was sweet. And then there's like
Yeah,
some
watch this.
kind of newer age anime style ones, I'd say too. But yeah, it was. I mean, it's across the board. Like you see a variety when you watch it. So
Does it portray itself like through the art styles, or does it just go random? Like, is it like art styles from the 50s and then the 60s and 70s?
No,
and 80s,
it's
or does it
just
go
like
all over the
random
place?
ones,
Yeah.
and it's like completely unrelated stories. Like
Sounds kinda
one is
neat.
like of a planet where the Empire is coming to try to find this Jedi, and he lives alone in like a little hut, and he has a droid of some kind.
yeah.
And he's trying to create, I don't know if it's like synthetic life or something on the planet, and like the Empire comes for him, and then the droid like finds his lightsaber, or if they're like weird obscure stories that don't really have anything to do with like the rest of the
Set in different time periods too.
yeah.
So it's not like
Okay.
like some of them might be set during the Empire, and other ones might be set like in the old Republic.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to watch that. I didn't know that existed.
it's cool.
Yeah.
So,
I just kind of found it, and
Yeah.
I was kind of and that's kind of like my experience with anime. Is like I find certain animes that I like, but it's really for me, it's got to be kind of the more tamed version, I guess. Like I really liked the one I was Sword Art Online. The first season was really good, but I feel like that had more of a story. And I feel like One Punch Man really wasn't so story. I think it's more for fun. Like it's kind of funny.
I can agree with that.
And I
feel
always
it's
like stories.
along the same lines as like Dragon Ball. Like Dragon Ball doesn't, I don't want to say have a set story, because it kind of does, but they're very like episodic. To a
yeah, I would
degree.
say One Punch Man is definitely episodic,
Yep.
but it does have carrying over themes and some story, but I don't think you need it. I could have jumped
God,
in
no.
and to like season 1, episode 8 and been fine.
Right.
Like I would have been able to figure out by the name of the
I
show
know, I was gonna
what
say,
he's gonna do
Right.
The
and
name
so-
is
watch
the
it.
story. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Oh, it's One Punch Man. What's the show about? Well, he defeats everybody in one punch. Like
So
you
I
just
will
summed
say,
up
'cause
seasons 1
Mike-
through 2.
Mike just sung it. There is something about anime theme songs that are usually pretty good. Like Yu-Gi-Oh was good for the time. Pokemon's good. One Punch Man actually has a really good theme.
Yeah, it does.
It's catchy and it's
Pokemon
actually
theme song to this day I can still hear in my head.
yeah, absolutely. But it's not. It seems to be an anime thing.
But my question is like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh theme songs. Is that the same as it is in Japan? Just obviously with not being in
Pokemon
English.
is. I'm not sure about Yu-Gi-Oh.
Because that's the other thing. Like sometimes we're getting an Americanized version of and that might be why we like it. But if we listen to the
We might be getting
traditional-
different words or lyrics, but the tune is the same. It definitely in
is
Pokemon.
it always?
No,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
always no, most of the time.
Oh,
A big
okay.
one that segues a little bit, I believe, is Naruto. Like the Naruto Americanized theme song, I think for the most part stays the same throughout the entirety of its like
Right,
English
because their
release.
words aren't going to rhyme the same as
Right.
the
Well,
Right.
that's why I was
Yeah, no.
wondering because
Right.
I assume like Pokemon's theme song has very specific wording, and if you did the same thing in Japanese, I can't imagine it would land the same way.
Well, I have to
Yeah,
assume it's the same
close.
way as like musicians that sing in other countries. They'll take the song they have and then they'll edit it a bit so that it still has the same type of rhyme or flow that is needed without needing to change everything. You've already got a good bass down. You just might have to change a word here and there.
So on that note, for Mike and Casey, do you enjoy watching it more when it's dubbed, or do you like it when it's in its original language and then you're just reading subtitles? Because I know some people don't like the dub because it mischaracterizes what's actually being said. So
I'm absolutely not a purist. I am a filthy casual. Even though I have watched a lot of anime, I still watch dub over sub if I can.
yeah,
But I watched the entirety of Naruto Shippuden as a sub, and that's a lot of episodes. It's like 200, I think, and it didn't bother me. I would pick a dub over a sub just because it's a little bit more mindless and I can follow the show a little bit better. But subtitles, I don't think takes away from anything. You just kind of, there are moments where I really, really, really want to pay attention to what's on the screen, not the 68 little white
Right.
characters appearing
Right.
at the bottom of it.
yeah. No, I agree. I don't like subtitles. There's very few movies that are subtitled that I can appreciate for that reason. I
It
don't
all
want to
depends
read.
on how they do it.
Yeah, I love Pan's Labyrinth, for instance,
Yeah.
but that's like one of my exceptions. So
I also love it when movies try to do subtitles and then it just says speaking in French. Oh,
Yeah.
great.
yeah. The subtitles are like a lot of times are really funny, and I imagine in anime they got to be just as good because.
So
They're usually
sometimes
pretty
the
good.
subtitles, you can do both too. You can get the ones that are dubbed and subbed, and the subtitles will be what is said in Japanese,
Yep.
but the dub is
It's
not.
something different.
So what we were watching, was it Attack on Titan? It was subbed and
It was
dubbed.
a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were watching Attack on Titan, which generally is dubbed, I'm guessing.
I think you can watch both. I
But,
think by
it-
this point they've dubbed everything.
I want to say it's a drastic difference, but there is like almost every line of text has a difference between the Japanese, what they are saying, and what is translated back over into English, which is kind of cool. So like if you can watch a show and read and do both, like you can listen to it, watch the show, and then once in a while like look down at the subtitles, you could actually try to see what they're actually trying to portray for the show.
Well, that
Yeah.
sounds like too much work.
It is. I mean,
It can
like,
be.
if you're looking at the show and you want to get like a full feel of it, you can do both, and you can get what's actually trying to be portrayed by the artists that make the show compared to what they do to have Americans watch it.
So I have a question for Mike and Casey, just because you guys obviously watch more.
out of this.
I know.
Well,
How
there's
dare you.
probably going to be a lot of that. It's probably going to be
I'm gonna weigh in.
us asking
Yeah,
questions.
get wrecked,
I had a
man.
phone with a friend.
So think about Pokemon. You have
the one I know.
Ash, and it's not the question.
Okay.
You have someone like Ash who calls out to his Pokemon to do a certain move. You have Yu-Gi-Oh, where you lay down a card and you're telling that card to do a certain move. It's
Sometimes you don't even look at the card.
sure.
You gotta use the heart of the cards.
You do have to use the heart of the cards. And then you have One Punch Man.
My face down card will beat you, and it did.
So then you have One Punch Man, who these characters are just calling out their moves while they're doing it.
Well, that's
That
their
seems to
special
be-
moves.
Why do I have to say what it's called to do it?
Because
is that
it
needed?
wouldn't be a special move if you didn't
I
tell everyone
think
what it is.
I
The
think it
guy's
would
like,
still be
"Oh,
special.
Shit, he's got this move coming.
He's supposed to be dead after I hit the move, so
Well,
I
I
shouldn't
think
have
what
to say
KJ
it
is
out.
asking is why can't they do their move in face down position when
No,
they're
that's not what I'm
So
asking.
Because if you do that, you'll activate the trap card.
That's
Exactly.
fair, that's fair. But no, I'm wondering.
Answered.
There seems to be a thing with anime where they like calling out their moves, and I'm wondering if that's something that you guys have noticed in other anime shows where they do that. Like you've watched Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
Do
Dragon
they-
Ball.
I was
gonna say that.
I was gonna counter your question with, have you ever watched Dragon Ball?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's all over the place.
And it's
I mean, I
just
didn't
them
think he
calling
could
their
do it,
moves.
but he did.
That's a very Japanese thing, I guess.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's
I feel like
so
it's
weird.
an over explanation. So like in a lot of animes I've seen, it seems like they are constantly over explaining what's about to happen and what I'm doing right now and everything.
Oh,
so,
Yu-Gi-Oh was notorious for that.
Yeah.
Where it literally explain for 5 minutes just to do 3 seconds of action.
I feel like that might just be the story.
Imagine
or
if
like the
they
acting
didn't
style.
do that though. How short the episodes
5
were. Like,
minutes.
right,
5
yeah,
minutes long.
all right, I play this. Your turn. You know what I mean? Like, imagine watching like Magic the Gathering animated for like 5 minutes.
But-
I played Blue Eyes White Dragon. I got no lands.
I
open.
got turn one combo.
Yeah,
I get some deaths.
exactly.
But Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, again, it made sense via the story. Pokemon, you're telling your Pokemon what move to use. Yu-Gi-Oh, you're telling your card what move to use. In these other ones where it doesn't really make sense via the story, does it? I guess my question: does it take you guys out of it? If it seems to be a very Japanese thing and you guys enjoy anime, does that part take you out? Because
No, because I like using their moves after.
That's
Generally, while I'm in the bathroom by myself.
Yeah, okay.
no. I mean, again, I watched Dragon Ball a lot as a kid, and again with Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm pretty used to it. I don't really have an issue with it. I more or less look at it as something that's pretty funny now.
Well, see, that's what I did with
my
One
secret
Punch Man.
move is like 17 words long. It's like the longer the name of your
Yes.
move is, the more powerful it is. It's just like in wrestling, the correlation to how powerful the move is
perfect,
how close the other
perfect.
person's face is to
The
your crotch.
DDP!
Like, that's how it always goes.
Yeah, they're basically like self-announcing everything.
Yeah,
Whereas in
they're like a
wrestling,
commentating.
which I know you like wrestling,
Yep.
so in wrestling, it's just you have a commentator saying it.
I guess. But it was just, every time it happened, I couldn't help. And as you just said, I found it funny. Like, at first it got annoying, and then I was just like, okay, they're about to do a special move. Let's hear what it's called.
It's something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's usually ridiculously over the top.
It
Always.
kind of
It's
feels
gotta
like
be.
comics when you have the narrating bubbles, and it's just because they don't have a narrator in these series. What they do is they over-explain it themselves.
Sure, yeah, because
But
there's
it feels
nobody,
like a very
yeah.
comic thing to do. Like, oh, Superman's gonna fly around, and you have the narrator saying what he's doing. So.
Well,
Right.
too, and also, like, look at your audience. Like, if they're pandering more towards children are going to be like, oh, that special move, and then
Yeah.
they're going to go do it. They're going to go out to the woods and grab their stick and hit their buddy with it.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about One Punch Man's story of how he became One Punch Man?
I think that is also just a hilarity. Like, we obviously know that he didn't just do, 1,000 crunches and
Yeah,
100.
1,000 crushes. It's 100.
Yeah, it's 100
Yeah.
each day.
Yeah, it's 100 crunches, 100 sit-ups, 100 something else, and a 10-kilometer run every day for a year.
Right, so like it's just
Or
like an
3 years.
oversimplification of how powerful like you can possibly be. So like you can kind of assume that there's like an underlying story because that's like so ridiculous, like it can't be possible. So again, I feel like that's another cool part of the story is like, okay, how did he actually get that powerful? Nobody knows.
See,
And they're
it
just
did
like, well,
the
how do you get this
opposite for
powerful?
me.
I did this workout.
Yeah, but it
No.
seems like most of the show is like, oh, we have these theories about how these things work and all this stuff, but there's never going to be a story that actually explains anything.
We don't know that yet.
Has
Well,
there been a
season 2.
story to explain anything really yet in the show? Or
Not
is
a
it just
lot.
literally episodic and, hey, I'm fighting this other random creature and I one-punch it?
They've got a couple of episodes that sort of blend together, like the final 2 or 3 episodes of the second season sort of all deal with the same instance, but
Right,
for the most part, yeah, it's very
we
episodic.
just got to the point where we found the leader of the monsters that's
Yep.
actually sending them to the surface. So like you're only 2 seasons in. It's very young as a show. Like I wouldn't say we haven't had enough time. They just have so much going on in all the episodes that they really haven't delved too much in it. But you see like little like excerpts of his life before he became One Punch Man.
I just feel like in 2 seasons, you should at least be able to explain some of the story better, but...
I
all
also
just-
think it's
it's all
one of the
just
reasons
fights.
why it got popular.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, I know it's wildly popular. It's not my cup of tea, but I can also understand why you like it. Like, it is kind of funny.
And
think
I
the
will
best-
say it's very different than anything else.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
very unique, and I can appreciate that. Like, it's probably why I don't like it.
that would make
it's-
sense.
Yeah.
Everybody else likes it, so I hate it.
You know they're doing a movie, a live action movie.
Of One Punch Man?
Yeah.
That's gonna be abysmal.
Bruce
I'm
Willis
sure.
is going to play him. His last acting role.
If not him, the guy who played Thing or whatever his
Who did
name
you
is.
say?
Michael
Fantastic
Chiklis?
Four.
Michael Chiklis?
Yeah.
I said
love
Bruce
Michael
Willis,
Chiklis.
Oh god.
But yeah, they're planning on doing that movie just because of how popular it is.
I'm in.
Even though it's only been 2 seasons in 6 years.
Cowboy Bebop was also ridiculously popular, and then they made a live action.
Yes, and it bombed.
and it's dog water. It's miserable.
I tried to watch that, but the live action, and it was bad.
I think I would rather solder
I
my
was told it
toes
was
together
bad and saved my time.
than watch that up again.
Well, the bummer was it had the guy who played Sulu in Star Trek, and I actually like him. He was in Harold and Kumar too, but
No, yeah.
yeah, it was bad.
We have one good actor. This surely can't go poorly.
Yeah, that's
well,
true.
I mean, we've all talked about Eternals. That literally is a who's who in that cast, and that movie was garbage. There are some things that just don't
Loved it.
translate to lines.
So I think Facebook, you know how it steals information and gives you ads based on what you've seen. It must have known I watched on Hulu.
He didn't mean that, Facebook.
Yeah, don't kill me. But so I watched One Punch Man, and all of a sudden I keep seeing these videos about like One Punch Man versus, and so I saw one where it was Homelander, Superman, and Omni-Man versus, and what's his name? Saitama?
Saitama.
Saitama. And basically, it was funny earlier. You were saying people don't give him any credit, so all of them were like, "Just sit there, kid. We'll get to you last." And then he just beats the crap out of all of them. But it was actually really funny because you have like Superman thinking he's gonna demolish him, and then he just one punches right through his gut. So
I
want
love
to
that
see that. I'm in. Yeah.
there's a
big
bunch of
twist
them.
at
Like
the end of
it's
the first
him
season.
versus
Yeah,
a
man.
bunch of
I
different
feel like
people.
that's the draw that I like so much is that he's just so powerful and like he has the power and doesn't like abuse it. Like he's not like I'm the most powerful being. Like he's not cocky about it.
Which
He's
also
just
doesn't seem realistic.
because he's not cocky about having power.
Any of us become the most powerful person in the world, we are going to let
What's
that
what I'm
go
saying.
to our
So
he's
he's a much better person than we are.
that doesn't
Y'all better
take
keep
much.
me out of this. What you mean?
So I'm calling it right now. I doubt I'll continue to watch that show at all, but the end of the show is going to be him being defeated by one kick man, and it's just going to happen.
it's Hitmonchan versus
Yeah.
You've got to get with the times. It's going to be one kick woman.
Yeah,
Come on.
that's true.
Wait, why you gotta add a gender to it?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
One
just-
kick.
One kick.
Yeah.
One kick person.
One kick them.
So moving away from One Punch
What?
Man.
That's the correct word.
No, it depends what they want. To
You
be
said
called.
not a man or a woman. That's,
I know.
That's them, they, right?
person.
Nailed it.
Moving away.
Damn it, I'm canceled again. Every show.
Moving away
one
from
joke,
One
Corey.
Punch Man. I started watching CastleVania as well on
Oh,
Netflix.
Loved it.
Oh my god.
So that is
God,
that is
I
a
am in
very
the other realm then.
it's a very Americanized show. So obviously it was made by Netflix. So it is anime in like the Japanese art, but it is very made for
Sure,
an American
you can tell
audience.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
I was bored out of my skull.
Oh, what?
The first 3 episodes, there's besides for the first 5 minutes of the first episode,
Just sleep out
there's
a window.
nothing going on. There's nothing going on.
Well, you're wrong, but it's okay.
What's going on in the first 3 episodes?
I don't
Build
remember. I
up.
saw it forever ago.
There's nothing going on.
You get to finally understand that Simon Belmont has a lot of people that like to hit him in the testicles. That's
Yes,
the problem.
that's it.
It's Trevor
And he wants to
Belmont.
get
Trevor
drunk.
Belmont, sorry.
Yeah.
And he wants to get drunk, and everybody wants to beat him up.
Yeah,
and he just wants to go about his ways, and then he meets the priest.
He
But
wants to-
there's nothing going on for an hour and a half, and you're just like, oh my god, I'm bored.
Well, I mean, the first episode has a lot going on. You learn the whole backstory of
Dracula.
Dracula. You learn about his wife,
you get that's in the first 5 minutes.
right?
Yeah, that's it.
It's not.
Then
It's not all just Trevor Belmont being drunk. I mean, there
well,
is
you don't
like a
even really
scene
see
about
him
that.
till the end of the first episode. I think it's mostly you get to deal with Dracula for the first 5 minutes, and then he says, "In a year, I'm going to come back and destroy everybody."
and then he does.
And then he, as I
It
was
is
saying, then he
brutal.
does.
It you see like 2 seconds of it where he calls his creatures out and they murder a couple people, and that's the end of it. That's all you see.
That's like the entire episode. That's a lot of episode.
It's 2 minutes of a 25-minute
That's
episode.
45 of 5 minutes.
Have you guys seen any of the other like made for Netflix animes? So there's Blood of Zeus is one I really like.
I watched like the first 2 episodes, and I wish I hadn't. I was in the same boat as KJ with
Castlevania.
Castlevania is very good. KJ is wrong. However, I can understand the way if he would feel like that about Blood of Zeus. I just didn't get a lot out of it.
I
But I
seem to
think-
be sensing a theme with anime. It's literally going to not appeal to everybody, and it's going to just there's so much of it out there that you can probably find something that you yourself enjoy.
Absolutely,
So
it's
that's
very
any kind of like
polarizing.
genre, though. Really, I mean, it's like you're gonna like every action movie. Like you might like Marvel movies, but you won't like Jason Statham movies.
Sure, but I would call Marvel movies not. I mean, they are action movies, but I call them superhero action. Jason Statham movies, I just call action. And if you give me an action
Right.
movie, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna like an action movie because there's usually something going on. Might not be a good movie like all of the Fast and Furious is lately. I'm probably gonna sit there and watch it because there's some action going on.
Blood of Zeus, I can see why other people were like. I like Greek mythology a lot, so like that's why it appealed to me. I think, but they also have one called Ragnarok. or something of Ragnarok.
I think I know what that is. I haven't seen it.
That seems like something that's more traditional anime, even though it was made for Netflix. It's kind of like out there looking, and I think the general premise is that the Norse gods decide to have like a contest to decide if man gets to live. So the gods fight like the greatest heroes of mankind or something like that. It's weird. I couldn't get into it, but it is more traditional anime, so you guys might like it. I don't know, but
Maybe.
And then they have a bunch of other ones like DOTA is like a gaming thing, right? It's
Dota.
Yeah, Dota. They have a show now
Yep.
based on it,
Yeah.
which I haven't watched, but I did play League of Legends, which is Dota, right? Or this
Basically,
crossover.
yeah, it's very similar. It's the same style of game. It's a MOBA, multiplayer online battle arena.
Yeah, so I did want to check that out because that seemed like it might be interesting.
Talking about the anime stuff, what was the first anime that you watched as a kid growing up? Was it Pokemon?
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it was Pokemon for me.
It probably depends what's defined as anime, but I'll go with Pokemon.
What else do you think it
Well,
was?
I'm trying to think back. Like Power Rangers wasn't anime, but they had
Power
Power Rangers was
action.
not even animated.
I let me finish.
He's really bad at this.
But there was a show like Power Rangers that was cartoon. I can't remember what it was called, but it was definitely cartoon based and looked like it could be anime. I just can't
Could
think
just
of what
be
it's called.
animated.
Maybe a lot of what you saw. I don't mean to like date you or anything, but like a lot of what you saw when you were a kid was going to
Black
be
and
like
white?
cartoon.
It was black and white. Yeah.
No, it was cartoon stuff. There was some popular anime in the 90s, but not a lot of it, and a lot of it wasn't even on our channels. You had to like order them special on like the late night channels and all that stuff that we couldn't use as a kid because they were password protected.
You got Gundam.
Cinemax.
Yeah, it's like
How old is Gundam?
80s, I think.
Yeah, so Gundam is probably...
Gundam's pretty popular. Cowboy Bebop was another big one. That was 98.
There was more like anime movies too, right? Like Akira was a big one, right?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of those. So another big one is anything by Studio Ghibli, which is like My Neighbor Totoro and Spirited Away. Those are the two big ones that even a lot of people that don't know a lot about anime have heard of.
Spirited Away, I've heard of.
Yeah, those are... Studio Ghibli is basically the Disney of the anime world. They make pretty much all the best stuff. That's not all the best stuff, but pretty much most of it. Most of it's comprised of Studio Ghibli.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of what we watched was cartoon, like Jackie Chan adventures.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
all cartoon style stuff. Yeah.
Biker Mice from Mars.
Come again?
Biker Mice from Mars.
What in the
I've
world?
definitely seen that.
Yeah.
I have
They had
not.
like the skull with
Yeah.
the triangle thing. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
That was
can't
way
remember
back
it.
when.
Yep.
The 90s were the best time for cartoons. Like, let's be very clear.
I can agree.
With this, I myself, like with Pokemon, with Digimon, with Yu-Gi-Oh,
Oh my god,
that's kind of like where my anime stopped until we knew we were going to do this podcast, and then I dipped my toe back in. For Corey, roughly the same?
No, I've watched a lot of different anime. It's just a lot of it, I guess, is probably more the Americanized stuff.
still anime.
Yeah, it's still
Again,
anime.
don't look
but,
at me like that, man. Again, I'm not a purist. I can't judge you.
Yeah,
Well,
but
Corey also thinks some of the stuff that's animated is anime.
No,
so
no,
when he
no.
says
Like,
that, I don't
He's
really
like,
believe him.
Simpsons?
like, but I watched the
Looking for
first
the high
maybe
five.
first 2 seasons of Attack on Titan. I liked that.
Very good.
I watched Sword Art Online, probably the first 2 seasons.
Overlord.
I couldn't get into it. I know that's like
we're
your
gonna
favorite.
fight about that later.
I know
don't
that's
worry.
like your
I'm
favorite,
ready.
but there was too much cringe. I just couldn't take it. But no, I've watched a lot over the years, and I try to get into some of the more like, well, I'll call it hardcore anime, because like we have a mutual friend, Dave. He'll suggest things to me.
Oh yeah.
And so I'll try to get into it, but it's just really hard sometimes. And certain shows just don't interest me. But yeah, no, I have more experience than you do, KJ, probably with it. But
And what about you, Mike? Is it something that once you watch the Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon stuff, that you decided, okay, this is a genre I want to look more into? Or was it something that you caught up more in later in life because someone was like, hey, you need to watch this?
I mean, I don't know if I've close-minded myself over the years to not watch it. every time somebody suggests something for me to watch, I'll watch it. Like if they're like, "Hey, this is really good," I'll watch it. Like I like anime, but I like a million other genres that aren't anime. So I'll watch a Netflix show of some random thing because someone has suggested, "Hey, this is really good." I'll watch it. Either I like it or I don't. Same way with anime. I like it or I don't. Like, and that's the thing about anime is just so many different styles that you are almost guaranteed to find at least something that clicks with you. Like, it's not like you're like, I don't like anime, so I won't like any of it. Like, I liked Pokemon as a kid. I don't know if that's nostalgic now. Like, when I watch it, I kind of get that same feeling. I don't think so. But there's just so much content out there that, you know, that you, especially if you have a lot of, like, I would say a lot of people, but like people that you kind of relate to the same likes. Like me and Casey and Pooler most recently started watching some like more broad spectrum anime. I hadn't really been introduced to it like over the years. Like, not a lot of my other friends are like, "Hey, watch this in particular." They watch more of this, so they're like, "Why don't you check this out?" I did. Some of it I like, some of it I don't. Like, what is it again?
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, it's like Pooler likes it.
To be fair, I like it too. It's just not something that I want to sit down and watch like 3 or 4 episodes at a time. It can be very hard to take sometimes because it can be very all over the place.
Yeah. So if you want to talk about like some of the anime, I can't follow because it's just so far from what anything you're used to. And then there's also the Americanized version, like CastleVania. I loved CastleVania. It's very easy to watch. It's very gritty. It's very dark. Much more, I would say, grown-up style. Like, it's not something like I'm going to watch with Oliver.
Right.
Like, you sit down like, "Hey, buddy, let's watch this show together."
Probably not watch that with your
it's
kid.
interesting. I kind of want to watch the series that are the other way, where it's like we're not Americanizing anime, we're making anime out of American series. So there's the Supernatural anime, which I haven't watched. I don't know if you have, KJ, but there's like X-Men anime series, not the animated series, actual anime. And there's a variety of ones like that I've thought would be good entry points for people because it's basically
like a whole Wolverine like Japanese series too.
Yeah, there's a Wolverine and there's a Fantastic Four as well. All of which I think would be good entry points to like the more anime style of stories that you're already kind of familiar with.
Right.
So to piggyback off something you said, Mike, you made mention that you weren't sure if it was nostalgia. If you go back and watch Pokemon right now, you're going to enjoy it, and you're not sure if it's the nostalgia or if it's something that you'd enjoy. I myself know that if I had never seen Pokemon and I went to go watch it now, I would not be able to watch it. Like, it's the nostalgia fact for me of that when I was a kid that I can sit there and binge watch the first season or second season or whatever it is and enjoy that. Same with like Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, etc. Going back, if I'd never seen that, if I just had to sit down and watch it, I wouldn't be able to do that. And it might be one of the reasons
You're
why
Debbie Downer now.
It's just something for me that I just don't find it that interesting. Part of it's me liking live action. I prefer the live action stuff more than I prefer anything that's animated. But for Pokemon, I know that it wouldn't be the same because I don't have those memories. So for me, when I start a new
They
one,
like that live action movie now.
the Pokemon one,
Yeah.
Detective Pikachu. Oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
great. I own it.
I also
that's so
suggest
good.
watching the DC animated movies that they put out over the DC live action, and then come back to me with that live action is always better talk.
Well, I'm just saying, like, for me, I'm not saying live action is better this over this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if I'm going to watch something and I have no basis on it, I'd rather, if I had 2 options, I'm going to watch something that's live action.
Yeah, I agree with you, but at the same time, I think some animated series and movies can be better than live action.
No, I'm just going to cut
I
that.
feel
I'm
like-
just going to cut right after you said I agree with you.
No one will believe that.
I feel like if they make a live action Castlevania, it will not be good.
No, that would suck probably.
It all depends
look
on
at the
script. It all
Dracula
To
they
be
depends-
made.
fair, we wouldn't really know. We could speculate, just like I'll speculate on what was the live action anime you guys said that they were making? They're making a live action One Punch.
One Punch Man.
I will speculate that based on the Cowboy Bebop live action, that will also be garbage, but we'll see.
It still depends on who does it.
Agreed.
You
If
look
it's
at
a
a lot of
Netflix
movies.
special, it'll
It's
be
going to be
fresh.
5 seconds long of just a bald man. He's going to punch the camera.
And
that's it.
I wish they would do a live action Yu-Gi-Oh! Just because I think it would be funny for somebody to try to portray like
It is
the same
impossible
level of
to have
intensity
real life
putting down
hair
a
like
card.
that.
How dare you say that's impossible? They can
the hair.
They can
Everything else. They
green
can do
screen
the
it,
one.
be
They can
fine.
do the Blue Eyes White Dragon. They can do all the monsters. Yu-Gi-Oh's hair is absolutely physically impossible.
They would just like do a blonde haircut with like pink highlights or whatever the heck he has.
How dare you say pink?
I mean, is that not pink in
It's
his
not
hair?
pink.
What
No.
color is it
It's like
then?
black.
Magenta?
Yeah, that's black.
It's like black and blue.
What? He has a
Magenta?
pink line in his
I
hair.
don't think it's pink.
Google.
So with that, it all like it depends who does the movie, because you look at like the first Suicide Squad that came out in 2016 or whenever it was garbage, or 2018 was garbage. The newer one that just came out where James Gunn was directing last year was great.
Yeah, I thought that was really good.
Yeah, so I think it depend, or the Justice League, depending on whose cut it is. You got the regular cut, then you got the Zack Snyder cut, which I thought was much better than the
That's
original.
red like around the edge.
Isn't it purple?
That is pink, purple, whatever you want to call it, but it's
that's
not just
red on the
black.
outside. That's red.
How is that red?
Because
That's
it's
it.
red.
That's just his aura.
Casey, is that pink, red?
I would say that that's red and that you are probably colorblind.
My God.
Yep.
Hey!
That's 3-0.
It's
there.
definitely not just black, like
That's
you
his
said,
aura.
though.
Yeah, but it's just blonde and black.
And
And
then,
I don't think that's his aura, because if you look at him when he's not Yami and he's
also,
still
why is it
Yugi-
just an aura around his hair if it's his aura?
It's his head. That's yummy.
No, that's hair. He has some weird haircut. Nobody else has an aura like that.
because nobody else has Yami inside them.
Somebody does.
Don't like that.
I've lost my train of thought now.
Now,
An anime you need to watch, KJ.
Okay.
I just remembered it when they mentioned that you liked wrestling. There's an anime about wrestling. It's called Ultimate Muscle. You should watch it.
Okay.
I watched it as a kid. It's actually kind of funny.
All right. Watched it as a kid. That doesn't bode well.
He
So
just cringed. I could see it like immediately. You mentioned something. He's like, oh, okay, I'll watch it. Oh.
I mean, most of the time I'll give anything a shot. It doesn't mean that I'll continue watching it though. Like I watch.
I'll watch it, but I won't like it.
I mean,
well,
I'd
how many
love to be
times did it
surprised.
get you to get into The Office or It's Always Sunny? Because the first episode
Oh
was
god,
cringy.
that first episode. Those first episodes are so bad.
And it's not even that cringy.
The first episode of The Office. If you're not used to cringe, it's very cringy. And most of the shows I watch, they're designed not to have cringe. Like that's the point, because they don't want people to turn it off.
Yeah.
So when you're not used to that, and then you go right to it, especially Always Sunny's first episode, which has to do all with racism, is so cringy. And The Office has cringy through the entire series, which I now appreciate, but at the time I didn't. So it might be something that like I watch once, have to watch again, and then eventually like I think if I kept watching One Punch Man, I might really start to enjoy it. If I start to embrace the dopiness of it and the funness of it, and don't look at it like
And
other
it's just
series.
Satama, though. The rest of it is very serious.
Serious-ish.
I feel like anime is kind of a sliding slope. So you start with like just dipping your toe, and then you get into like, oh, that's kind of an out there anime, and then next thing you know, you're watching whatever one you're talking about. That's crazy.
JoJo's Bizarre
Yeah.
Adventure. Yeah.
But like you always start off with like more of a
What's
basic
the
anime and work
one
your way
with
down.
just like fights? Like everybody just dies.
Baki.
Yeah, Baki. That one is out there too.
Yeah.
It's just people that are just massive, huge fighters, and they just kill each other, literally.
I think the
Rip
funner,
pieces
Fight in a
off.
tournament.
the more fun I had this
Yeah, Mortal
past week
Kombat.
with yeah.
Basically.
The more fun I had this past week with anime was trying to find other shows I could like watch an episode of to see what it was like, and just reading the descriptions of these shows and be like, that's a show? Like it made no sense. There were just so many that were just bizarre concepts.
Well, I think that's part of being like a Japanese show. Like, it doesn't need to have this clear, concise thing that, like, America and myself am used to, like, when it comes to a story, which is why it's hard to accept other things or embrace other things.
Gotta have an open mind.
I agree with you. I tried, and then I started watching it, and I went, "Oh, that mind is closing very quickly."
The doors
Nope.
are shutting.
Nope, fuck this.
So Casey, I've asked everybody else. So for you, what was your first one that you started watching? Because I have no idea how old you are compared to us. So
30.
are you 30? Okay, so
Yeah,
you're 4 years,
not too much younger.
4 years younger. So what was the first one that you started with? Was it a Pokemon or
I believe it was either Pokemon or Digimon. Yeah, something like that.
okay?
Straight
And
from
then-
the womb. He's watching it.
Yeah.
My mom
And
was
then
watching it.
Yu-Gi-Oh is a big one.
Did you once that hit? Like for me, that's kind of where it went away because most of the anime, as you got older, kind of went away from mainstream for a while. Did you stick with anime because you liked that style, or did you just go somewhere else?
So I stuck with it a little bit, but it was mostly because my brother was not like crazy into it, but he liked Studio Ghibli stuff, like Spirited Away. I watched that when I was, I don't know, like 12 or 13 probably.
Mhm.
That was one of my favorite movies because it's really, really good. Kiki's Delivery Service is sort of the same style. That was also really good. But yeah, other than the few that I watched here and there, I didn't watch a lot of shows until when I was in college, probably. I got into watching, Bleach. There we go. That was a big one for a long time. Bleach is a pretty good anime. It's just kind of long.
My roommate in college was obsessed with Bleach, and I remember he told
Just
me at
drinking
that
it.
point how many. What?
Just drinking it.
yeah. Yeah, so he died.
PSA, do not do that.
Yeah.
Just
But I
loved
remember he
Bleach.
said like there were just a ridiculous amount of episodes of that show too.
There was not as many anymore. So One Piece has like 700 and something episodes, and I think it's still going.
Wow.
One Piece is very long. Like, people usually equate longevity of a show to like Naruto, because Naruto, the main series, had, I think, like 100 and something episodes. Granted, if you cut out all the filler, it was like 30, but that's another problem with a lot of the shows that go for a really long time. There's a lot of filler, and it's miserable to sift through. That's why I have if I ever wanted to watch Naruto again, I have a site bookmarked that literally tells you what episodes you can skip and why. And the best part is there's like 4 or 5 episodes that have like 8-word synopsises. It's fantastic. Just like, don't watch this because this is all that happens. Oh, okay, cool. Thanks, man.
My
So it's funny. I found sorry, Corey, not really. I found somebody for the Yu-Gi-Oh one who literally cut together an entire season and broke it down for all the times they repeat themselves or say nothing, and they broke an entire season down. I think it was 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be very long.
Yeah, it's just it's very, as Corey mentioned earlier about like commentating. They really like commentating. It fills airtime, and they just repeat themselves. And then when you get to a new episode, they almost recap everything that just happened in the last episode.
Previously on Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, I remember seeing that so many times.
my son just started watching Naruto, and he's like obsessed with it right now. That's like his go-to show.
It's good. When he gets to Shippuden, he's probably going to cry a lot.
Oh, really? Okay.
Shippuden does.
Yeah.
Something to look
Yay.
forward to.
So not the very first few seasons of Naruto, when he's like a kid, when he's like 10 or 11, it's very kid oriented. You've got some peril that happens, but for the most part, everybody makes it out. Shippuden goes the Game of Thrones route, where something happens in the first like 10 or 12 episodes, and then it's all out the window, and nobody is safe. Nobody's safe.
I know
It's
he's
great.
been trying to get me to watch it, so I'll probably have to dip my toes into
If
it,
you
but-
can, I think if you can get through Naruto, because it's cheesy, it's meant for kids. You can tell that they have a lot of exposition. There's a lot of like morality involved of like trying to make 10 and 11-year-olds realize that like they're super powerful and the world is going to be like at their behest at some point. If you can get through that and get to Shippuden's amazing.
Do I have to watch the crappy
Just-
part?
Yes.
Can we just skip to the
Can I
Yes.
skip to the good stuff?
Because otherwise one of the things about Shippuden that makes it good is you're so invested in all these characters that the minute somebody important dies relatively quickly in Shippuden,
Is it Naruto?
that's what sets the no. God, I hope not. Jeez, that's what
Naruto,
sets
no.
that's what sets the tone.
Okay.
You realize like, okay, this is different. Like nobody is safe anymore, and then they continue that throughout the entire series, and then they do it in what are called arcs. Like then they name them. It's not like arc 1, arc 2, arc 3. They have names, and one of them is literally just called the pain arc, and it is absolute pain. It really is. It's so hard to watch for me. Because one of my favorite characters bites it, and I can't watch it. It's so sad.
Can't wait.
We haven't even mentioned Airbender.
So, isn't that a good thing?
No, Airbender is great.
No, I see Squirtle.
Dude, it's Squirtle as a waterbender.
It's just Squirtle.
Squirtle is a
No,
waterbender.
Wasn't that the
Avatar?
show they made a crappy movie out of?
Avatar
Avatar?
is an amazing anime that they tried to make live action, and it bombed.
Failed miserably. Do not repeat.
Honestly, I will say, of all the animes I've heard of that I haven't watched, that one does have kind of a cool story. Basically, it's like different populations, and this is like the Airbender, Firebender nation, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, they all have different powers, and it's based on elements. Yeah, water, wind, earth, and fire. And it's sort of like he's the Avatar. So the Avatar is somebody that can... He's the only person alive at the time. There's only one Avatar ever alive at once, and they're the only person that is... I won't even say powerful enough, because power level isn't really the point. Skilled enough to master the other elements, or all elements, I should say. Like, he's able to learn how to firebend and waterbend and earthbend well. Not just because he can, or a little bit here and there. Do it well.
So, now, there's a newer series, too, right? That is
Legend of Korra.
Is it? And now that's kind of geared more towards adults who probably watched Airbender when they were kids.
To a degree, I would say. You can watch Legend of Korra without watching Avatar. But there's a lot that you might not understand.
Yeah,
but
the backstory.
Yeah, because it's I think it's like 100 years after the Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh,
it's a while after. Like one of the main people is Aang's like great grandson, and he's ancient. So it takes place well down the road. But very, very good seasons. And again, they're not long either. I think Avatar and Legend of Korra is like maybe 150 episodes. And again, that sounds long, but it's really not.
Right. It does sound long.
Well, I mean, think about Law and Order. That's like 20 seasons, 20 episodes a season. Like, people binge the heck out of that. I don't know how they could do it.
So, another series I watched that I'm curious if you did was Berserk.
Yep.
So, I loved the beginning of Berserk, and then it kind of went off the friggin' rails. So, you know what I mean? Because I was this is kind of like
went berserk.
No, it went
weird. They told you right from the beginning.
It hits some very, very touchy subjects really fast.
So the first season or whatever was basically like a medieval style, adventure, and I really liked that. And then it's like, okay, remember that kind of style we were doing? Now we're gonna go into like demons and stuff. I was like, okay, I can still get on board with that. And then there's some really frigged up stuff that's going on. It's like,
yeah, there's some very morally reprehensible things that happen that really make you question why you watch this show.
Yeah.
But that's the premise though. Like it gets really dark really fast.
It's weird though, because the first season didn't feel like that
No,
to me
not
at
even
all.
close.
And then, it just went off the rails.
It's a good watch. If you have children who are young, don't let them watch it, please.
Yeah. Or just watch the first season.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
I loved the first season. I was so disappointed the way it went.
I wasn't necessarily disappointed. It was a bit much for me.
Yeah.
I had a hard time watching the last 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah. It was rough.
You guys are agreeing too much. Now let's talk about Overlord and hear you disagree.
Stupid.
I
no.
gotta sit up for this.
So I can't.
You stretch.
I'm going to say this right up front. I can't say that I watched enough of it to give it a solid chance.
Same.
I appreciate that answer.
I watched the first episode, and for those who don't know, the premise is basically, and Casey, you correct me because you know it better.
Do it.
But basically, this guy's like one of the last remnants who's playing this online MMORPG.
Yeah, it's like a VR.
Yeah, and so there's supposed to be like a reset or something, and during that, the
game's going
AIs
offline.
come alive, right? Basically, they they become self-aware and all that?
So we don't know. So he's playing a game, like, so they've played the same virtual reality MMO for like 8 or 9 years, him and his group of friends, and the game is just shutting down entirely. Like, hey, thanks for your patronage. Like, we can't keep the game running. Servers are going offline forever. Have a nice life.
Yeah.
And so he talks about like how one by one the people that he plays with have just sort of stopped playing. Like how in normal games that's how it works. Like eventually you log on to Xbox Live and you haven't seen, McDirty71 offline for 3 years, that kind of thing. And they sort
That's
of
not 71.
I don't know what it is. I just knew it was McDirty something. Get out of here. And so he's talking about how like, it's the last day here. The servers are going offline.
He's in like their guild hall, basically, right?
Yeah, he's in
and
their
they have
guild
these
hall.
AI or NPC characters that are like their servant, butler kind of people in there.
Yeah, basically. And then the reset happens, and it's supposed to log him out, and it doesn't. And then he's just very confused. And leading up to this point, you see him kind of move his hand in a certain way, and a menu pops up, like your system menu to do things, like change your volume, change your settings, change your color, all that stuff. And it doesn't happen this time. And he's like, man, what is going on? And then after a couple of minutes, he just tries to do like a forced log off, and he can't.
So let's get to the part that made me cringe.
Oh,
so all of these now like alive NPCs or whatever they are, but the perception I had from the first episode that I saw was that these NPCs are like alive now and they're not acting the way he would expect them to act. They're going off script at a minimum. So he sends most of them away to go like check areas outside or whatnot, and then the big breasty servant remains.
Albedo, yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, devout to him and just will do whatever he wants. So then you hear him start going, can I touch your bosom or something like that? And I was like, oh my God.
To be fair, that is extremely tame for typical Japanese anime. It gets so much worse. Not the show doesn't, but it gets worse than that. But
so is that the most like, is that the highest level of cringe I just assumed when I watched that, like, oh, this is the way the show's going.
That's close to the highest point. I don't quite remember all of them, but the reason why I find that particular part so funny is like at the beginning, in which he's like talking, he's going over like funny things he wants to do on his last day, and Albedo was an AI servant or NPC servant to another player, and he was jealous of the fact that he made that NPC love him instead of anybody else.
Right.
So
yeah.
he messes with the coding for the last day so that she's madly in love with him, and then he can never turn it off again. So throughout the seasons, he gets more and more annoyed with her because he's like, oh my God, what have I done? Leave me alone.
So that actually sounds funny over time.
It's great. It's really great.
Does he always look like that too? I think that's the other thing for me is it's hard for me to relate to a main character in any way that looks like him.
Is a skeleton?
Well, he just looks like the villain in the game, which is fine. Sometimes following a villain's cool, but you can't see any emotion on his face because it's just a skeleton mask.
Kind of. That's why you really have to like pay attention to
his
like the
breathing.
few facial cues he can have, or like when he gets too worked up, like his character will have this weird blue, like light blue aura that surrounds him real quick, and then it just calms him down real fast. And he's like, okay, back to normal. Like, or when he gets too angry, it'll happen. And then he's just like, okay, we're fine again. And then he just goes back to normal. But for the most part, he always looks like that. This doesn't really give it away. There's a series of episodes in the second season where like he's wearing a suit of armor and you can never see his face. So same principles apply. Like you really can't judge facial expressions too much.
It seems like the Mandalorian though too.
That was where I was going to go. Like the
Right.
voice actor does a pretty good job of kind of gearing you towards how he's feeling, what he's thinking, where
Right.
he wants to go. He
Yeah,
does
but-
a little bit of exposition, which I like. He doesn't spend 7-8 minutes of an episode just kind of talking to you, the audience. It's maybe like 30, 40 seconds here or there, which I like. It gives you that little bit of info that you need to kind of want to watch more, but he's just not sitting there talking to you about it for 7 minutes, ruining everything.
I actually thought I was going to like it because Sword Art Online was good. And to me, they were a very similar premise. I
Yeah.
think Sword Art Online, the premise is like these people go into an AI game, but the developer of the game put like bombs, like they'll die if they die in the game or something like that. And you're following this one character. Well, you're following a lot of characters, but there's this one main character who's basically leveling up really fast. And I liked that. So maybe I'll give Overlord another chance. It's just
skip the boob part.
Well, the problem is, like, if that's not, is that every episode? Like,
it's not necessarily every episode, but again,
every other.
It kind of moves towards he's less and less okay with it and more annoyed with it.
I guess I could appreciate that over time. It's just like that first episode was like, he was like mouth breathing about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, he
oh
even talks about how he's like a lowly, single, young office worker. So,
yeah.
I mean, if that's what you're going to be, then sure, I can kind of understand.
It hit too close to home for Corey. That's what it was.
That's right.
Wait, I didn't know you were single. Yikes.
So, question for everybody. Start with Corey. Favorite anime out of everything you've watched?
Oh, like as an adult or
right now? Like today, what's your favorite anime?
Pass. No, I don't know. Like, it's hard because I watched Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh so much as a kid, and I feel like those probably should be at the top, but I really liked, I don't know, Attack on Titan, I guess, if we're going, like, current anime and, like, more anime than Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, which are kind of
we're going
American.
with today, right now. You're sat down, you can watch one anime, that's it. What do you watch?
Forever? Just that anime?
Sure.
I'm going to go with Pokemon, probably, because there's lots of seasons now.
No, I don't want that. Just one that you actually enjoy. Not just because there's so many seasons. You did that before with Star Trek because there's so many.
Tell us what you like, Corey. Why are you so difficult?
This is just a pain in
Well,
the
it's
ass.
hard because I've only seen like a season or two of a lot of these things.
Are you that person that likes one specific brand of water, and if the restaurant doesn't have it, you throw a fit?
No.
This isn't good enough for me.
You don't have Fiji. Fuck you.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Attack on Titan's good.
Okay, we're gonna move on from that, and we're just gonna say it's Attack on Titan.
That's
Mike,
what I said.
I know, but you're like, him.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
I also really like Yu-Gi-Oh! I've watched it as a kid and I really liked it then, and I've previously rewatched it at the store, and I really like it.
I showed my son the first couple episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! And like, I gotta say, it kind of holds up. It's ridiculous, but
it is ridiculous.
But it's still, maybe it's the nostalgia, but I still think it's pretty good. I actually probably would say Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is mine.
Yeah.
I also really like Digimon though.
Yeah, man.
So
Digimon is great.
I remember liking Digimon a lot.
Have you watched it lately?
I mean, not like lately, like
within
very
the last
recently, but couple
5,
years.
10. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't remember that. I'm pretty sure I tried to watch an episode 2 or 3 years back. First time I watched it since it came out when I was a kid. I felt like it did not hold up.
Well, so the thing I remember about Digimon, even when I was a kid, is like the first season I liked, and then it kind of went downhill real fast. I think
like once they get back to the real world. Is that what you're talking about?
I think it's when like the original kids get older, then their like younger siblings or something get involved.
Well, there's like 2 generations.
Yeah. And so for you, Casey, favorite anime?
I think mine would probably be a toss-up, and they're very different. It would either be Digimon or Cowboy Bebop. And I think that's why I can't choose, is because they're so different.
Yeah.
But I could sit down and watch either of them, no problem. I love them so much. That's why when they made
I want to try Cowboy Bebop.
It's so good.
Because I love the premise. I never gave it a chance before, and then when I saw the live action, I was like, oh, the premise seems good, but the live action kind of sucked. So maybe
Also
the
true.
animated might be
Do
good.
not watch 0 out of 10. Netflix, what are you doing? Why you gotta massacre my boy?
So another question on that thought is, if you could pick any anime and it was going to be a good live action movie, what anime would you like to see live action?
And it's gonna be a good, guaranteed.
It's going to be good.
Guaranteed 10 out of 10.
Not 10 out of 10, but it's going to be like 7 or 8 out of 10.
It's gonna seem weird, but I really want to see. I can't imagine a Yu-Gi-Oh live action being good, so I want to see it. I want to see somebody stressing and saying "Heart of the Cards" and not laughing in the scene. Like, I just can't picture it.
What about you, Mike?
I feel like there wouldn't be enough information on a Yu-Gi-Oh movie to make it good.
But he said it's guaranteed good, so I went with it.
I feel like Attack on Titan live action would be insane.
Yeah, that would be
There'd be some big dongs swinging around the
They
screen.
don't. They
though.
don't
Oh,
have
right.
them. They're
They
like,
don't
have
have
'em.
dongs.
they're
No, you're right. You're right. I haven't watched it in a while, but I just
Yeah, they-
remember they're giant naked.
They have like no,
Giants.
no
there's-
genitalia.
other than like facial features and hair length to kind of give it away. You cannot tell.
Just imagine a 50-foot derpy live action giant though, because they just have like such derpy facial features.
I will say that would probably be a better movie than Yu-Gi-Oh. I just think it'd be. I want to see somebody
Do
try to
you
make
now?
Yu-Gi-Oh a good movie. That's really what I'm getting at. But the Attack on Titan would be an awesome action movie.
Absolutely.
You have the like sword, I don't know, grappling hooks or whatever that they
Yeah,
fly
I don't
around
quite know
with.
what they're called.
Yeah.
And you, Casey?
If it was guaranteed to be good, I'd love to see live action Digimon.
Digimon?
Yeah, I think that'd be really good.
Yeah, I feel like it would be a good one too. Yeah.
See, so I'm going to say Pokemon, and I know they did one.
They did
and hang on. They did and they didn't.
Aren't
like,
they
you didn't
doing
get to
one?
see in not so far.
Oh, I thought I heard
get
they
where
were
he's
going
with
to.
this.
They've said like 50 different times they're going to, they're not going to. But
Oh.
you give me an Ash.
Ryan Reynolds
and-
is behind it, so
You give me an Ash Ketchum and doing his whole
Ugh.
thing live action with going and training the Pokemon, going to all these gyms, doing all that.
So
I'd
you're
enjoy
talking live action TV show probably though.
that. Yeah,
I don't
or
know how that's a
different
movie.
movies.
Yeah.
Do 50 movies. I don't care.
I mean, it's not like they haven't made like
50 already?
26 movies
Yeah.
already. Yeah.
what if we make it a series though?
I mean, a series I think would play better, but I'm saying you could do a movie.
Oh yeah.
One reason why it might never make it to a series is because you want it to look good, and the budget to make all those Pokemon look realistic like they do in the movie is going to be expensive.
Stranger Things spent $31 million per episode.
Because they knew it was gonna.
Yeah,
be
but
good.
it's a short series.
it was guaranteed to be good.
Plus
It was pretty good.
So are these series worth it? I give it the check stamp.
What?
What?
He said these series are guaranteed to be good.
Yes.
And he said, yes. So there we go. It gets the stamp of approval.
okay.
Let's
Yeah,
send
they're
it.
going to be good. Then
Yeah, it doesn't matter how much we spend because KJ said it was gonna be good.
Yeah.
So
It's going to be good.
I want,
guaranteed.
yeah. Although I actually wonder because I think a Pokemon live action series would be popular.
I'm still surprised they haven't even tried it.
I wonder what streaming service is going to give it a try. Because who owns the rights to Pokemon? Like I don't even know.
Konami?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, like, do they have an agreement with?
No.
Because they're kind of on everything, right? Like every streaming platform
It's
has
on
some seasons.
Netflix has a couple seasons, I think. Hulu has a couple seasons, but I don't think any of them have them all.
Probably Crunchyroll.
That
Get on it,
means
Bezos.
Nothing to me.
Crunchyroll's like Netflix, but anime.
Oh, okay.
They have like
now I
user
want
submitted stuff too,
Now I
right?
want the
I think so.
Crunchyroll.
yeah, now I want some sushi.
I also would like sushi quite a bit.
All right, so final thoughts about anime. We'll start with Casey because he's our guest star today.
So Mike
He
was
hates
very
it.
much right. Yeah, I hate it. Miserable 0%.
And we'll end right there.
Our guest speaker, who is here to talk about anime, actually hates all of
dislikes it immensely. Yeah, I think Mike was right in the beginning. Where there's a lot of anime out there. There is something for everybody. No matter what you like, you can probably find it. Just Google it. Guaranteed. If you Google, I really liked Pacific Rim. Go watch Gundam.
Rule
It's not
35.
necessarily about them fighting aliens, but Gundam is literally just giant robots.
Well, and they
It's
have
great.
Pacific Rim anime now on Netflix.
Oh, do they?
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
There you
Pacific
go.
Rim
Behind the times, there we
Uprising.
go.
You've
or
been
something
Googled.
Like that.
You've been Googled.
It's a good watch. You just have to really be prepared for it to be different. If you go into every anime thinking they'll either all be the same or it'll be similar to this live action show you've watched, you're probably going to be more let down than if you just go into it thinking, oh, it's something I've never seen. Whatever happens, happens. That's how I look at One Punch Man. Like, KJ is absolutely right. Like, there's really no sense of danger. There's no sense of urgency. But I love it because I just love watching Saitama be so blasé and normal and ignorant about everything. It's fantastic. But I also, again, I went into it wanting to just see it for what it was. And I'm glad I did because it's hilarious.
Yeah, unlike me who went into it because of this podcast. That's how I went into it.
You were kind of
like,
forced.
Let's go watch this. Let's see what it is. But as I kept progressing through the story, it definitely became like, if I can just appreciate this for what it is, it's not bad. But if I'm going into it with thinking of it as a story, as a show, as a whatever, rather than, hey, let's just sit down and enjoy 20 minutes.
Right.
It's definitely a little bit different. Mike, closing thoughts, anime-wise?
I mean, again, you just gotta find an anime that you like and go with it. Again, there's, even if you have like previously watched, like if you're, I'd say the older generation, but of our generation, if you've watched Pokemon, you probably haven't watched all of the seasons or all of the episodes. There's still episodes that you've probably thought you've seen all of it and you haven't. Same way with like Yu-Gi-Oh. I watched Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid, and then I've started to rewatch it as now that I'm older. And there's a lot of stuff that I haven't even seen before. So yeah, that's the thing about anime, is there's generally tons and tons of content that you haven't seen in a genre that you like.
Corey, closing thoughts?
For me, I think there's like to reiterate what everybody else said, there's a lot of different stuff out there. So some stuff like me and you will like, and other stuff Mike and Casey might like. I also think the art style plays a lot into it for me. So like sometimes the art style is too unrealistic for me to really sink my teeth into, and then other times it's kind of more something I can relate to.
I will say too, I'm very glad I'm not prone to seizures. They are all about the cuts and the flashing and everything. They really like that to try to bring the story to life.
Big on their shaky cam.
Yeah, everything.
I think I like kind of the...
They try to weed it out at a young age.
Is that what it is?
Yikes.
I like the more, although I say that and I like Yu-Gi-Oh, but I like usually the more normalized appearances for the characters.
Well,
that
again,
I can relate
Yu-Gi-Oh
to.
was also when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Would you like it now if you didn't have the kid thing? It's hard to say.
I don't know. Like, I liked Attack on Titan. Your main characters look like normal people to me. They don't look ridiculous. So, like...
That's so weird to hear, because for the last few weeks of the podcast, you kept talking about the Orville and not like having humanoid type creatures and having the blob. And now you're like, with anime, if they don't look like humans, regular humans, I don't like
That's because in the Orville, it's supposed to be an alien. It's supposed to look different. But in anime, when we're talking about a normal human being and they look like disproportionate or to the point where... like some of these women in the anime have boobs so big they wouldn't be able to walk. Like that's when it gets a little ridiculous
they
to
got
me.
Huge Dogon Honkaros.
Yeah.
Like my sister-in-law draws is an artist, and she drew our logo for this week, and she draws a lot of different styles of anime, and the logo she did for us I think was much more realistic looking, but she could have done something that was more out there anime style, you know?
Yeah.
So I appreciate the realistic. What?
I look like a sensei and Mike looks like Mike.
Yeah. I like what Mike said. He said I look like I'm about to start my Pokemon journey. I was like, oh, that's great.
Yeah, I have no closing thoughts besides for what we've already said. So we're going to end the podcast there. Next week we'll be talking about Star Wars again for our second part, as Obi-Wan will have just ended. So we'll be discussing mostly Obi-Wan, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into Star Wars as well.